I said, I will just start the recording now. Thank you very much for joining another GoDaddy Pro EMEA meetup. It's our great pleasure to speak about automation in WordPress industry in this month. And today's guest is Maciej Palmowski. We know Maciej already from last year. Maciej has already presented the knowledge to WordPress community. So here is another opportunity to hear something new. So Maciej, without further ado, could you please tell us what we will be talking about today and how do you actually feel about automation? Thank you.
Hi, so today I'm going to show you how to automate not only deployments, but automate multiple parts of the code we are developing now. Because a long time ago, when we were developing in Notepad, everything was simple. We just pressed save and everything was up and running. And now we added lots of tools and everything got a bit complicated. And I'm gonna show you how to make it a bit more simpler, or at least we won't have to worry about many things that we could worry if we wouldn't automate them. And what I think about automation, I think that it is one of the key things we can do as mostly as developers, because we should really think that our time is the most important thing, and doing on and on the same repetitive stuff is just a waste of time, and we can use it in a much better way, either developing something new or just spending it with our families or resting, because it's also a good way to use our time much better than doing the same thing on and on and on. So without further ado, I will just first I will show you a small presentation about our application, and later I will show you some live examples, and during it we'll do one or two QA sessions. So let me start sharing the screen. So we have it here. Okay, you should see my screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wait a second. Let me just prepare my speaker view on the. Great. Okay, so like I said before, I will take you a bit back to the times when development was much simpler, and at least in my case, it was a bit more fun. Because for me, wait a second, okay, I already have 36 years old, and when I started developing, first I played with Turbo Pascal, and the thing I really didn't like about it was the fact that every time I did some change, I have to recompile the whole application, and it was kind of boring. And the moment when I learned about something called HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and I learned that the only tool that you need is this great editor, probably you all remember it. And when I saw that the only thing that I have to do is press the save button, and I could already see the changes, I really love the web development, and I'm doing it even today. So, and I'm not writing in Turbo Pascal anymore. So I really love that I don't have to compile something to see the results. Sadly, because everything become a bit more complicated, the applications have grown, the teams that are building the applications also has grown. Also, in many situations, the team is scattered all over the world. We had to add some extra tools to make web development even possible at such level. So we started adding tools. First of all, we don't just copy and paste some libraries into our code. We probably use some dependency management. We use npm or yarn for JavaScript, or we use Composer for PHP libraries. And those tools are really terrific because we don't have to worry about many things. Just uh, putting one command like composer install and the name of the package not only installs the package, it also adds the libraries that this package needs. So it's everything. Everything is installed just with one command, and this is great. But we already have 2 extra tools. Next, because like I mentioned, the teams has grown, and we work with many people who sometimes write a bit differently. We had to think about tools that will keep this code in line with that will align with some standard. That's why we started using tools like ASLint, CSSLint, or PHP code sniffer. And to be honest, I really can't imagine working without those tools, especially when I would be working with some other people, because we really tend to have our own style of writing. And if everyone would use their style, our code would be a mess. And thanks to such tools, our code can look exactly the same uh, uh, from everyone's point of view. So again, great tools, but we have 3 tools added to our stack. Also, in most cases, we don't use pure CSS. We either use SCSS, or maybe we use post CSS, or maybe there are lots of other libraries. Some people use CSS in JavaScript and so on. So again, those tools will give us many great features. For example, with SCSS, we can build a simple function, simple logic inside of CSS, and it will be rendered as normal CSS during the compilation process. So again, great tools, but we have another tool in our stack. Because we already have a lot of them, at some point we had to start using tools that will orchestrate it, such as task runners. So we have Grunt, we have Gulp, we have Webpack, and thanks to them, running those many tools I mentioned before is much easier and a bit more standardized. And let's not forget, we are people, so we make mistakes. But we can test our code, and we can test it on many levels. We can test. We can add unit testing. We can add functional tests and end-to-end tests. So again, tools without which I really can't imagine developing a bigger application. But our stack again grows. And when we sum up it all together, I feel like the current web developer stack is a bit like, this is how I feel every time I have to install something from a new project and learn it. But we can make it simpler. We can automate it because, like I said, automation is, I think, the best way we can get rid of all the boring stuff, all the things we have to remember. For example, when I showed you before that before pushing the project, we would have to remember to compile CSS, compile JavaScript, run some tests. So there are many things we would have to remember each time, but we can automate it. And with Buddy is an application for CI/CD, so it's this more scientific term for automation. And first of all, we have to connect our code with some Git repository. We can use either our private repository, or we can use GitHub or Bitbucket. When we have our code in such repository, Our next step is to create pipeline. A pipeline is just a set of actions that is triggered by either by us, because we can trigger it manually, either by a push to some branch, either on time basis, as you can see here in the second pipeline called monitoring. It triggers every 5 minutes. And when we have a pipeline, we can fill it with actions, all the things I mentioned before. In this example, we will have, first we will run unit tests, then we will compile assets with using gulp, and in the end, we will deploy it to server. And if something will go wrong, we will get a notification on Slack that something went wrong. And here I showed you only 4 possible actions, but we have much more of them. As you can see, we can use gulp, we can use grunt, webpack, we can connect with GitHub, we can run visual tests, we can notify with Telegram, we can run Cypress, and so on and so on and so on. We really have a lot of them. And the icons that are here, this is about, I think, a half of all our actions that we have on in our application. And at the end, the thing that I always hated, I think, the most was setting up the development server. It's like setting up the same server again, but it will be only used more rare than the production one. And thanks to Buddy, we can also speed it up and make it a part of our pipeline. Creating, it's called sandboxing on our end. And we can create, as you see, an Ubuntu with Apache with PHP 7.4 and MySQL, and we can have such server in minutes. So if we will bring all the things that about which we have to remember that is repetitive, and we will put this into pipelines, and we won't have to worry about our development server, we can again focus on the fun part, so the developing itself. And now let me show you some live example of what is possible with Buddy. Let me switch again. Okay, can you see the Buddy admin panel, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's terrific. So we're gonna start. I have prepared 2 scenarios here. One will be, in the first one, I will just show you what we can do with just with WordPress, and in the second one, we will connect WordPress with Gatsby, because headless is let's be honest, it's quite a hot topic right now. So I couldn't miss it. So let's start with WordPress. Like I mentioned before, first let's start with setting up a server. Like I said, we have sandboxes here. Well, let me just move one thing, okay? And currently it's offline. For a moment, I will just show you what we can set up, and then I will just run the one that I already prepared. So either we can create a new one, or we can use some we already created. Because if we, for example, have our own special install with some tools already on the server, that will be probably a good idea to create a snapshot and use it on other sandboxes. But let's say we want a one-click new install. We can select which Linux we would like to use, and then we can choose a playbook. Playbook is just a set of rules of things that will be installed on our server. For example, we would like to install WordPress. Then we just add the database, the user, and the password. And when I would click Create Sandbox, in about 1 minute, I would have it up and running. But let me go back to the one I already prepared, because it is exactly the same. It's WordPress with Apache, and there is a terminal. So let's launch it. And here we have our server up and running. That's all. It's working. It just took me one click, and turning off and turning on and turning off the sandbox can be a part of any pipeline. So this is also a really cool feature. Okay, so we have our web page, and now let's go back to our pipelines. Here we have only one pipeline. It's called WordPress build. I already filled it with few actions, but I will come to it a bit later. First, let's start with settings. Every pipeline, like I said, can be triggered by either by us with trigger mode set to manual on push. So every time we will push some code into the master branch, the pipeline will run, or we can set it to recurrently and it will run, for example, every 5 minutes. We would like it on push, so every time we do some change in the code, it will run automatically. Let's save the settings just to be sure. Okay. Another quite interesting thing before we will jump into actions is the file system. The file system is not only the code we have in our repository, because as you see, some folders have this violet thingy on it. So the things without it are just a part of our Git repository. And the things with this violet thing are the files that we're creating during the build process. So for example, if we will install npm, the node modules folder will be created here, and it will be in the file system. It's in a way some of a caching system for the whole pipeline process. So every action has access to the same file system. It's not recreated each time. And the most important thing, actions. I created just a simple one, just not to create it every time I'm doing this presentation, but I will add a few steps later. At this point, it will just do one thing. It will upload files from the pipeline file system, so the thing that I shown you, and it will land in the sandbox WordPress with Apache, so the one that I started. The files will be saved as user www data. It's kind of important if you are a bit aware of how server privileges works. And here is the remote path where the files will be uploaded to. So in our case, they will land into the theme folder. And also, what is important, the ignore path. So we are choosing which paths won't be uploaded to the server. Okay, so we have it. We can press save action, and if we would run it, we won't see any change because I didn't change any file. But let me run it manually so you can see what is happening. And it just uploaded. It took just 1 second because we didn't change anything. So it's time to add something new. Like I mentioned, we have a lot of actions. You can see them right here. A lot of them. So let's start with adding some Node.js, and we want to first run the npm install. So all the libraries that are set up in the package.json will be installed. And we have one process, it's called gulp sas. It's everything we have here. So let's add this action. As a next step, I would like to install all the composer libraries. So we can remove this, we just need composer install. Okay, so let's run it again. And now you will see that this will take a bit more time because, oh, sorry. This is the thing I always love about live coding in a way, because we didn't install gulp. So we have to add it in the environment. So every time it will be okay. So this time it should work if I remember correctly. Let's run it again. Okay, now it's Npm Install, it's running. Okay, as you see, everything went fine. Now it's the composer that was run. So as you saw, now it took 70 seconds, a bit longer than the first time. So let me show you how we can also speed up those pipelines. For example, here we can run some actions in parallel because we don't need to run a gulp and composer one after another. So if we do something like this, you can see here that they are working at the same time. So this should already speed up our process a bit, but that's still not. Okay, so 10 seconds, so almost a half less. But let's make it also faster because every action can be triggered conditionally. So for example, run only if there were changes to specific paths in the repository since last execution. Because we know that if something changed in package.json and now let me be honest, I'm not sure it was SAS folder, but let me open one tab for a second because my memory isn't the perfect one. SCSS, okay. Or if this task will run only if we will change something in the package.json. So for example, we'll add a new library, or if we'll change some file in the SCSS folder. So let's save it. And the same thing goes here, because let's run composer install only when something changed composer JSON, if something changed in the composer JSON file. So let's run it again. At this point, we still didn't change anything in the file, so it should just be a bit quicker. As you see, both actions were skipped because we didn't change anything, and our execution time has dropped to 1 second. So now it's time to change something. So let's go back into the code. And I think we're going to run one of the most popular changes we can ever make. Body, background, color, red, important. Great. So let's commit. And as you see, it's already running because we pushed a change into a code. And this time, composer was skipped because we didn't touch the composer JSON file, but we did a change in the SCSS, so it was executed. And now let's take a look at our website. And as you see, it turned to a beautiful red, just as we expected. But that's not all we can do, because okay, we did a push, we did some change, but are we sure that the change we did was right? That's why we can, for example, run visual tests. Visual tests are really cool because they're very simple. We just add the URL of our site. Let's save the action. And let me enable it because I disabled it at the beginning. And of course, we can also run it conditionally, but this time we'll run it every time. And let's run a pipeline again. This will be not a perfect moment to have some problems. Okay, but it's running. Now it's running visual tests. It will take a second. And as you see, I have a possibility to approve it or not. So I click this, and the previous version, when I ran this before this presentation, was without the red. So if I think that this red background is the correct version, I can click yes, approve. Or if I have some doubts, I can say no, cancel this execution. It's now up to me. And of course, this can be a bit more nicely tuned in a way, because let me show you one more thing about this. If we are working in a bigger team, wait, it's in options, of course. Of course, yes, because sometimes we know that there might be some small changes. We can, for example, change the tolerance level when the approval pop-up will show. So this is also quite interesting thing. We can also, if we know that there were some problems at some specific resolution, we can also set this resolution. So there are really many things we can set with those visual tests, and we can overall build quite an interesting pipeline, and in which we don't have to worry about what will happen, because if something will go wrong, it will automatically stop. We can even set it to, for example, to revert a backup or something like this. So, okay, this is end of the first part of the WordPress. Are there any questions? Because I think it will be quite simple for me to answer them as we go, rather than wait until the end. Nothing? Alan, I think you are some.
Yeah, Alan seems to be deeply thinking.
I'm on mute. Yeah, I'm on mute. Yeah. So is Buddy running on a server, or is it running in a SaaS, or is it running on your local host?
It can run either as a SaaS, or you can install it on your own server.
Okay, but on a server, it's not a local host tool anyway.
No. It's mostly because try to imagine working with a bigger team and everyone would have it set up locally. Then having it in one place get rid of one of the biggest problem of setting up a project. So
Yeah,
everyone will use exactly the same environment. And
yeah.
okay, that's all, or so I will continue if so. So let's start with, of course, turning off our sandbox, because now we will, and let me close this. Wait a second, because of to close it, it was a bit under this. Okay. So now let's go to the Gatsby project. Here we will have a bit more actions, but again, let's start with starting servers. We will have two of them. First of them will be just a typical WordPress with, and the second one will be the Gatsby.js site that will get the data from the WordPress. So let me just show you the preview first. So this is the Gatsby site. And this is the WordPress site. Okay. As you see, in both cases, we only have this hello world set up. So let's start with the first thing. So as you know, every time we use Gatsby and we would like to add some new content in WordPress, we have to rebuild the whole site, running the command called Gatsby build. So we're gonna do this. So first of all, we're gonna add some new content. First of all, I will have to log in. Let me add the new post. Let's say hello GoDaddy. Right. Let's publish it. And let's, okay, so we have the post, we have it on our list. That's great, but it's still not here. So now let's go into our pipelines. We have one called production deployment. It will only run manually when I click the run pipeline. It consists of few actions. First of all, I will run npm install. Then I will run the Gatsby build command. And this will upload the files and I will get a notification on Telegram because I can use Telegram as for notifications too. So let me run it. It will take a moment because, and already I have it set up that npm, if there were no changes in package.json, it will skip. So the Gatsby building takes a bit of time because it has to gather the data from WordPress. So let's give it a while. Okay, it's and okay, we are halfway there. Yes, this is the moment I really don't like during any live presentation because just staring and waiting, it's always not the best part. Okay, the build was finished successfully and everything was uploaded, and I even got, as you can see, a notification right now. So okay, and now let's see. This is the, let's refresh, and we have our new post added, and we can click on it. We can see it's working. So this is, Buddy is a really great tool for orchestrating static site builders. I'm using it for some with WordPress and WP2 static personally, but you can also use Gatsby. You can use almost every static site generator there is. But this was quite of a simple example. Now let me show you a really cool feature, because I won't just push a change to WordPress because this is, I showed it already. But this time I prepared two pipelines. One is called Cypress IO test that will run a simple Cypress IO test, and the second one is page speed test. It will run Lighthouse just for mobile, and it will give you a warning if the scores are below 50 in any of these sections. But this time we won't run it every time on or manually. But let's go into settings, because we can do something like this. Branches by a wildcard. So every time we will create a new branch, or there will be change in any branch in our code, this pipeline will run. So first I will save it, and then in a moment I will show you what it will give us. Okay, so we have this also here. This time I am storing my code not in the Gatsby Git, because not in the body Git, because we also have a Git server, but in GitHub. This is our code, and I'm gonna create a pull request in a moment. So let's go. Oh, sorry, wrong repository. I made this. It should be this one. And we're gonna go into this pages 404. We're gonna make a simple edit. This is a very sad moment, so we're gonna add a second sad face. We're gonna create a new branch, and let's create a pull request. And look what is happening. We already have those two tests running here. So, and if we will go back into our body, we see that both of those tests are running. So we can automate body together with GitHub. that every time someone will create a pull request, the series of tests will run. And if some of those tests will return some error or something will be wrong, it will prevent the developer from merging it into production. Oh, for example, here, the page speed test didn't went too well. Oh, both of them didn't went. Why is it happening? Wait a second, something. Oh, I remember, because there was an update, sorry, my mistake of, as you see, we can also change in an easy way the version of Node. Sorry, I forgot about it because I was, so let me do a quick fix here. I'm not sure if okay, here I fix on the side.
This is nice also because it gives us actually
Yes.
the correction paths as well. So if
Of course, yeah,
you can actually know how to do it. It's great.
Because yes, let's
a couple of more times.
Exactly, yes, because let's be honest, development consists out of crashing stuff quite often. So let's save it again. So this time we will have, we can, so let's create one more pull request. Now it should be okay. Sorry for this. Okay, so let's do it again. This time it should be, yes, because from what I saw, something changed with the version of Gatsby during the, and should, oh my, no, I did a small mistake again. Okay, but it's running right here. But overall, like I said, if those tests will be completed and will be working, and then the developer can, for example, merge the pull request into the repository. If something will go wrong, like we had this in this case, I can merge the pull request. So it's also a good thing. And of course, we can build much more of such tests, and they can be quite different. Not only PageSpeed, not Cypress. We can, for me, the most obvious one would be running PHP unit tests in many cases. And okay, this time we will see. Yeah, but this time they will go. They should be okay. So so yeah. So let me go to the last part, because like I mentioned, we have 3 types of triggers. We can trigger things manually, we can do them automatically, and we can run them based on some time settings. For example, let's set this up, and we can have a very simple uptime robot that will test our page every 5 minutes. Just, is it working? It will just send a ping, check if it will return 200 return status. So let's save this. Let's run it, because we don't want to wait for 5 minutes. And it was simple. I got a notification on Telegram that uptime monitor execution went okay, and it's okay. But now let me turn off the sandbox we were testing, because it was, I'm not sure which was I testing. This, shut down both of them, and then let me run this again. And while the server isn't running, we should get an error in a minute. Yes, it's failed, and I just got uptime monitor failed execution by me. So also we can do a lot of other stuff that we would like to run from time to time. I have a friend that has a client that every year forgets to to renew his domain. It's he just has it like this, and he created a simple pipeline for him that will remind him that when the website isn't working, that it automatically push a notification to him, because the most obvious reason will be that he, like every year, forgot to renew his domain. So okay, are there maybe any question? Maybe I can show you something more we can achieve with Buddy.
Before we get to our attendees' questions, I just wanted to ask you, so what I've understood that the hardest part of working in Buddy is understanding and setting up all the triggers, right? So when you set up all the triggers, everything should work. And how much time does it take, for instance, to set up a Buddy? I know you're a pro, so you're using it like very often, but if to start with, like if I'm a new person wanting to use it.
I remember that for the first time I used Buddy, and we were moving from some other application that was also for automation. It took us about 2 or 3 hours, but when I have set up my first project, then it's really easy because we have all those options for clone existing pipelines. So when we will have one project, we can use it as a template for some different ones. So after spending a few hours on our first project, the rest should be much simpler. So
I got a question for you, really. So what would you say is the major differentiator between this and, say, just using CI pipelines in Bitbucket to build a static site, let's say?
For me, it was always the Buddy is, because even if I work at Buddy, because I do, 5 years before I started using them. So I was first a client, and later just I got hired. So it is really one of my dream jobs. And I always loved Buddy for the ease of usage, because I also played with Bitbucket, I played with GitHub Actions, and the way you have to add some actions there is playing around with mostly YAML files or JSON files, and here it's just a bit like just adding some new blocks. You just want to add something at some point, or you want to move something. So it's just simple. It's a bit like block editor for CI/CD.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I know the pain of setting up.
Exactly.
Even though I don't work in a team, but I've used CI for things like building Hugo sites and things like that, you know.
And here this is just much simpler. And we really had a few cases of teams that were using Jenkins, and it was kind of surprise for them that it can be done so easily, and they don't need so many people just to create those Jenkins pipelines, when almost every developer could create could create a pipeline that will work. Of course, it will take time to polish it and to make it better, but overall, it's really easy to set up.
And so I've got another question so I work on my own. I write plugins, and I see that Buddy has a free plan targeted at freelancers. Mm-hmm. Why would someone not working in a team use Buddy? What would be the big wins? I mean, at the moment, I'll just explain. I have my IDE set up with Gulp, and that deals with most of the build aspects of it. So I click, I've got a few commands that will create local host development things. So testing and deployment I've got covered. What what other things you think might be useful in Buddy for a freelancer or a non-team environment?
Normally, but sadly we have the pandemic, I have one strong argument why we should use Buddy. It's because during WordCamp Europe in Serbia, I had to do some quick fix at a local cafe where the internet was quite poor, and I had to push quite a few files that will be from Buddy, from Git, and so on. And if I would had to do it from my computer using this quite poor internet connection, it would probably take me about half an hour and could break at some point. And with Buddy, I just posted the change, and the change was, I remember that it was a small fix in SCSS. It wasn't something big, but I had to rebuild all the CSS files and so on. So pushing the whole CSS files would be a bit harder operation over the poor internet. And at this point, so using any centralized CI/CD, not only Buddy, it's really a great solution for nomads when we have possibly poor connection, because we just have to push the small changes to the repository, and all the heavy lifting is happening between the Buddy server or some other tool and and our destination server. And in your case, when you have everything set up, the only argument that I could say is maybe at some point you will grow. But yes, if you are a user that, let's say a power user that already knows his ways and is capable to set up such tools on his own, okay, that's also great, because the most the biggest strength in any CI/CD software you will see, especially when you will start working with the team. When you are working alone on the project, and you are always working, for example, from home, when you are sure about the internet connection, that difference won't be so big. So let's maybe true about it. But on the other hand, I must say that the thing that I had, even now, that I had to switch the Node version, or I would have to change the PHP version, and just with one click. If, I don't know, are you using Docker or not?
Using what did you say?
Docker.
Docker, yeah.
Okay, so you are using it already, so you also could do it quite easily. But if you wouldn't, yes, this would be some. So yeah, because yes, this is a bit of a problem with power users that like to do things on their own. Because I'm doing the same thing with one of my projects. I don't know, are you familiar with the project called Stratic?
Stratic, no.
Yes, this is a project that allows you to build a static site from your WordPress just in one click. Really, it's really an amazing tool. I really love it, but it's quite expensive. And I decided that using one of the cheapest servers in Poland that we have, that has SSH access, I paid $2 monthly for it. It's really very poor, but it's working. A free Cloudflare account, free Bodyworks account. I built myself a process that is doing the same as Stratic, but I don't have to pay for it. So yes, but I know how to do it. So it wasn't a problem for me, apart the fact that I didn't sleep for a few hours, and I made it working. But if you don't have time and you just want to have something ready for everyone, in such cases, Buddy is the best choice. If you are sure about your skills, your infrastructure, your internet connection, and so on, you can stay with it. It will
Yeah.
work.
No, it's obviously someone like me, I've built up my own little environment, which but as I work on my own, I know my scripts and whatever. One thing I did, you've got the NPM, Gulp, Grunt, all the rest of it. Do you just have a script option? Can you run Bash or whatever as a?
Yes, of course, because you can. Let me just show you. I will just add an action because, first of all, you can because there are two ways you can run scripts.
I can see local show, yeah.
Yes, because you can either run on the file system I have shown in the beginning. So then you just run based on you have on body server, or you can connect with SSH and run some scripts on the server. So yeah, it's really then up to you what you want to do, because as you see, there's lots of it. There are also some predefined one, but this gulp script is exactly what you can do with the Node.js script, just adding one line.
Yeah.
But it's easier for many users just to click at this place. And as you mentioned Hugo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you see, you can also use Hugo.
Yeah, I've got one Hugo site. I played with Hugo as an idea for where customers just wanted a very simple website, and I basically cloned Genesis theme into a Hugo theme, and I've only got one site with it. But every time they want to make a change to the content, you have to change the markdown and push it.
Yes, and also Buddy has an API. So I had one. It's kind of a side project, and it's really in alpha stage, but I'm playing around a bit with it to make a possibility to connect WordPress with Buddy. So every time, for example, you will save a post, it will start to rebuild the rebuild process. So for example, if you have connected either Gatsby or maybe Hugo with WordPress, because you can, why not? Yeah. Every time you will make some change, it will run some script. It's also doable. So really, it's like sky is the limit, and I really love to talk with people on how they use it, because I already have my favorite ways of doing stuff, and they aren't perfect. And while talking with others, I can always learn something new, some new approaches. And
Good. Thank you.
I wanted to ask you also, I mean, Alan mentioned freelancers, right? So what about freelancers who still didn't open their agency, but they have like 5 to 6 clients, 7 clients that they're managing on a daily basis or helping them out to grow? Because nowadays what has been seen is that there are many ideas and people tend to, interfere in the design development of a website and everything. So what if they want to do so how about these freelancers who still don't have a private entity? Would Buddy actually help them out in their daily activities?
it will depend a bit on at which level they are, because the WordPress community, as we know, is really wide, and we have a whole big spectrum of skills, of development levels, and there are still many users let me say, there are still many developers that don't think Git is something they should use, which I think is a bit of a mistake. So I think they really should think about the overall automation process to learn how it works, what is needed to use it. For example, storing the code in Git, because yes, the world is changing, and at some point it would be really nice for them to know their stuff if they want to get better at what they are doing. So I think that using not only Buddy, because in a way, it doesn't matter what tool they will use for automation. There are a lot of them, but I think that Buddy is the simplest to start. Um, Overall, they should start thinking about automating processes because it's just saving time. It's saving time, and each time we will do one thing that is repetitive, there is a bigger chance that at some point we will make a mistake. So everyone should try at least learning uh, how to do it.
That's awesome. Could you tell us something more about the support and how does it work? I mean, I'm sure at the beginning everybody gets jammed, so and overwhelmed with what they're doing. So how does the support work with Buddy, or is it like email, chat, or?
We have a forum on our page, and there is a, a chatbot. So if you have any problem, not only you'll find a bug, but for example, we have a client not long ago that they just wanted to ask about better practices of how to connect WordPress with CI/CD. And we always try to respond to such things because it's really nice that people want to learn something new. So, like I mentioned, the main channels of communications are the forum, where are also other users that can help, and our support on our chatbot end.
Awesome. And what will be the key takeaway that we are supposed to take from this session? Should we be afraid of automation, or should we gain first some knowledge and then be able to use it and apply it? How to actually, what is the recipe to start automating things? I mean, where to start?
I think that most people start doing things a moment after something is broke. For example, GitLab had this moment once in their history when they dropped all their databases. Why? Because they didn't automate some validation process. So most of us probably will start automating some parts of our code at the moment when they will do something wrong. It's same as with backups. Most people start making backups just the moment when they will lost some of their content. And I think that with automation, this is the same. Then there will be a moment when they will just do something wrong, and they will try to find a way how not to repeat this mistake. And automation is in many cases a really great solution for it, because like I mentioned, we tend to make mistakes, especially when we do one thing over and over. And robots don't think, they will just do exactly what we want from them in the exactly same way. The only problem that can be that we would program some script in a wrong way, then it will also mess up. That's why we sometimes have to also validate our automations. But overall, no one should be afraid of it. And I know that for many people, it may seem like they will have to spend a lot of time at the beginning. Probably right, they will have to spend some time at the beginning, but in the long run, there is such a big time saving. I really just can't imagine working without automating how the scripts are run, some monitoring on. And but from what I see, Alan is in the same situation. He also have everything automated, but just on his local host. But this is but still, it's the mindset is more important than the tool we are using.
We could have a debate here, actually, local versus automated, right?
Both are great. It's I think our favorite saying at IT. It depends.
It depends. Exactly.
It is actually, I mean, although my development machine is all set up and good to go, occasionally I'll want to do something off from my laptop. Now I have to clone the Git repo down to it, I have to then run npm install, and then I have to make sure that the scripts that I've got on my laptop are the same as they were on the other one before I can deploy, you know, and it does get messy when you start to switch around machines even.
I know, I really know the pain. I really know the pain, and this is, I mean, I also, on Windows, there is always a constant problem with setting up PHP unit tests. It's just a nightmare. So there are moments where when I just prefer to run the unit tests on the remote machine, and
Yeah.
I will be sure that they will run.
Yeah. Of course, I don't use Windows. I'm a developer. The idea of using a different operating system to the one you're deploying on is just like, no, forget that.
Yeah, I know. But to be honest, I was for many years I was a Linux user, and at some point I decided I really love those small laptops, those ultrabooks, and I saw that the drivers for them are so poor, and so I switched back to Windows, and it turns out that it changed, and it even works quite good, really.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yes.
I
was really.
I'll take your word for it.
I was really so surprised. I thought that it would be a nightmare coming back from Linux, and no, it wasn't. And I really don't understand why the constant hate on Windows. I mean, yes, it has its problems. It has a lot of problems, but it's not so bad.
Yeah.
Well, I believe we reached the end of our meetup. I don't know if Carlos or Philip would have any questions related to current presentation. Yes, Philip, please.
Not really, but I want to say thank you for the presentation. It's really useful, and yeah, I used to develop and set up pipelines with Jenkins, and I know what is the pain. And here you just click and yeah, and
Exactly.
it works.
Yes, I also remember when I once tried how to set up Jenkins, and it was no, just no, never again.
Yeah, maybe we should have a meetup of tools, which tools not to use, because it seems that some have already been outgrown by other companies offering new solutions to the markets, and sometimes we just get sticky to things that we got used to. So just like any of us has a preference in using different type of laptops, we also have a preference in using different type of tools. So I'm very happy that we had you today, Maciej. It was really very knowledgeable. Please note that I will send an email to all the people who are RSVP but weren't able to join our event tonight. So you'll have a recording as well for later on purpose if you'd like to, if you start using Buddy, perhaps you will need a quick tutorial from Maciej that Maciej did. Also, our next week, we're going to have a very interesting discussion. It's going to be whether shopping behavior of our consumers could be automated and how to automate any type of online shopping behavior. It's a very interesting topic. Please come with your opinions because we're going to be really talking about some interesting things. Also, at the end of the March, Alan will speak at our meetup also about the plugin that he created. And we have a meetup that will be called Spam Wars. And we're going to be warriors against spam, and let's see how we can fight against that. So many interesting events coming our way. I will just briefly here put a link to our event next week. And then I will hope to see you in our events. Also, if you have a proposal for the topic which you would like to hear, or if you need an opinion from people who are knowledgeable in that area, please let us know. Maybe we can bring somebody who can actually talk to all of us and bring us some good news. In the meantime, talk to me, call me, connect on Facebook, internet, LinkedIn, or anywhere else. Here's the Here is the link to our next event. And what else to say other than it was a pleasure to host you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.